Any updates on the suspect?
Yeah. Can I always say, I think, just to protect us all, and so Fox doesn't get sued and we all don't get sued and everything else. But I think with a high degree of certainty, we have him in custody.
The suspected assassin has been detained and arrested. This was Tyler Robinson, again, age 22, from Utah. Turned himself in after being recognized, I believe, by his family members who recognized that it was him. And just a horrible situation once again, but at least maybe people can rest a little easier knowing that this isn't a open manhunt at this moment. I'm sure more information will come out on this. But again, very politically motivated. It's becoming very clear that it was politically motivated, and that's where we are.
That's right, Logan. And the governor of Utah was the one who broke down the information in this press conference this morning. Kash Patel was there.
After being announced by President Trump
on Fox and Friends. That's right. So what we learned is that this is a 22-year-old from Utah, did not attend Utah Valley University where the shooting occurred, apparently had no party affiliation and did not vote in the two most recent elections. However, family members told law enforcement he had become increasingly political over the past few years. And recently, he talked with family members at a dinner about Charlie Kirk coming to Utah Valley University and discussed why he didn't like him and his viewpoints. And they quoted the family member saying that he said Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate. The roommate of this individual has given investigators messages that were sent to the roommate on Discord, showing things talking about like retrieving a rifle. They didn't go into the specifics of what those said, but the roommate shared them with law enforcement, and it helped build their case against this individual, as well as the father of this son. It's reported recognized his son from the photographs that were distributed by the FBI. The father told his son he needs to turn himself in. The father apparently called a youth pastor to assist with that and encouraging the son to turn himself in. The pastor called and informed U.S. Marshals, and it's reported that the father drove the son to turn himself in to authorities. This is one of those where you normally, after one of these horrific events, don't end up getting to see someone in custody and there being a trial and justice coming for it because of their cowardly acts.
Yeah, I mean, and of course, Jordan, I think that the assumption will be based on the writings and everything that's come out that this from someone who will plead some form of mental insanity or illness. But the problem is if you're willing to take the life of somebody, that should probably be less than enough. Of course, you're mentally unstable.
Yes, but also
and not some sort of
obsessive with anti-fascism. So not someone who wasn't able to educate themselves, kind of deeply actually did deep dives into the anti-fascist movement against the Nazis, and then used the rhetoric that's been used to identify so many of us on the right in the MAGA world as fascist, and took then the anti-fascist, even like the 1940s we're talking about. Language like that was written on these bullet cases.
You would really have to know.
Yeah, you'd have to take it. So are you insane or are you crazy, but also highly educated, obviously competent enough to carry out?
Well, that's just become such a blurry line at this point of what that all means.
What is different is usually these people are not caught alive.
No.
So that could be very different. Now, will he ever talk in a trial? We don't know. Probably not. But you never know what you're going to get in these kind of murder trials when the Utah governor is saying they're going to seek the death penalty.
As Jordan said, you rarely see one of these assassins captured and detained. And
these
lately,
days,
I mean, yes, we could go back to previous decades and eras.
In New York, the insurance company executive, he's alive and he will be facing trial. And then you had one of the Boston bombers,
Joe Carson.
Yes. But most of the time, now a lot of times we're talking about the school incidents that police get involved. Yes, police get involved. It's an active fire situation.
They neutralize the threat,
and the threat is either neutralized or the person neutralizes themselves. And honestly, that's what I was expecting when they started finding things in the woods, that they were eventually going to find a body. what is unbelievable almost about this story is that the father convinced the son to drive in and turn himself in.
Yeah, and of course, that is the news.
There
that coming out
wasn't
this
more
morning.
loss of life. There wasn't some police raid. There wasn't.
No.
We didn't have to have more blood spilled.
Yeah, this was from, again, President Trump announced this morning,
Yes.
unprecedentedly. I mean, you don't really see that
I was,
often.
up early to get the kids
same.
ready for school, and he's on Fox and Friends.
Fox
by
Friends
phone.
on set. I thought this was going to be a call-in situation. He's on set 'cause he was there. He's at the Yankees game last night.
Yes.
And he says, hey, we have him detained. And then shortly after that, all the details emerged.
That's right.
Yeah, and once again, what we've also seen is kind of the ideology that was this, because we had learned yesterday they had found shell casings with engravings
said,
on
yeah.
them. And what one of these other lessons that needs to be taken from this is I think the amount of disinformation that has spread so quickly with this one is way more than normal in a situation like this. And there was even people trying to say there were no markings. It was just the manufacturer of the
branding,
ammunition and things of that. We actually learned what those were. Two of them I don't know that are necessary to even read on air. One seemed like almost like an online gaming troll to whoever may have found it. But the two that were curious was one said, "Hey fascist, catch," as if catch the bullet effectively.
Yeah.
And the other was the lyrics, Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, 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 which comes from a resistance song from the communist Italian resistance in World War II that would sing this as a folk song against the Nazis and the fascists in Italy. So when you're looking at motive here, one of the biggest prevailing motives here is that he was hearing that people that are of the MAGA movement, Charlie Kirk, President Trump, all of that rhetoric that they are Nazis, they are fascist, they are a threat to democracy is what was resonating with this individual that they had said had become increasingly political over the last few years. That's from the family, that he hadn't, before that, he hadn't voted in the last two elections, was not registered as a partisan in the state of Utah. So it's very interesting when you're starting to see this, and you're also seeing that many on the left have not given up that line. They are still continuing to push that this is very fascist. Even in the recent weeks, that the Trump administration are fascist, they are Nazis, and we're hearing that over and over. That is what seems to be, at least from the little information we know, that was a motivating factor of this assassin.
Yes. Well, we always know that rhetoric is a motivating factor. I mean, when you demonize an opponent politically to the point of name calling them maybe one of the worst, most disgusting, evil leaders in modern history. Like if you're Hitler, if you're going to compare someone to Hitler, you're basically giving people a green light. How many movies have been made where the positive part of the story are the people that are trying to kill Hitler, and they're never the bad guys. Yeah. And so if you try to
Sometimes fictionally, they succeed.
Yeah, and if you try to make your fellow Americans who have a different political view than you and are part of one of the two major, not fringe political parties, but are part of one of the two major political parties, if you demonized to that point, does everyone take that action that this individual did? No. But does it open the door to individuals who are already on the line and say, you know what, I'm gonna save my country. I'm gonna, and this is gonna be some kind of patriotic act. That is how I'm sure they interpret it, and they are again they're using language that's very dangerous. Very, very, very dangerous.
You think they would have learned by now that is something that you shouldn't be doing, because this happens now. This happened over and over again. This is just the first time this has happened in a successful way, if you say, from the assassin's point of view. A lot of times these are thwarted or stopped or are, in the President Trump situation, just slightly off. These moments happen, though, where you do have to rethink it. But I look at everyone said this kind of the great purge for a lot of people's social media accounts, because you look at your social media and you see sort of where people stand, and not necessarily where they all stand on.
Some gross stuff.
Saw some gross stuff. I saw gross stuff this morning.
My friends I knew who were definitely on the more left side of politics. These were like lifelong friends.
Yes, same.
Who wrote things. I said, you should have just been quiet.
Yeah, no one's asking you for your opinion. I think that's one of the weirdest things about all this is everyone expects on social media that you have to make a statement. I, for a while, didn't even say anything because I said, I don't know if people are coming to me. At this point, we can all, this is an odd quote Brandon Lake said, you got to go to God before you go to the gram. And I felt like that was a good way of putting it because that's where a lot of people immediately jump to making some sort of big, bold statement. And a lot of them, I saw one today that was like, I'm still not going to be mad for someone. It's like, what if this was, his parents can't be that old. He was raised in a moderate household. This is not a guy who was, what if your son becomes, if you're a leftist right now and you're raising your children, what if your son becomes the Alex B. Keaton, becomes the radical Republican? Do you think then, there's some sort of justification? No, of course not. But that is not, what's being taught now. It was being taught in the 80s, but certainly not what's being taught now.
And what's also interesting, you talk about what has gone on social media. President Trump said this morning he has not seen the assassination video of Charlie Kirk because he did not want that to be the last image of Charlie Kirk that he has. And I think that is powerful. That's important. Obviously, he knew the details. That was one of the great tragedies, I think, of this entire thing is that normally the American people are shielded from seeing the worst of these tragedies. When it was the outdoor event that was successful by the assassin, you were at an event that is very social media friendly, something that people are constantly filming on their iPhones that have incredible 4K cameras with great chips and sensors, like something we've never seen before, and they're right up close. Then, unfortunately,
this isn't the Zapruder film.
One of the worst things you've ever seen. Exactly, there's a Zapruder film. It's not that. It was,
which is still
crystal
horrifying,
clear.
by the way. That was shot on film.
And the fact that now that is in the American collective consciousness. That's another tragedy of this whole thing.
It really is, and I think a lot of people, even before there was announced, we're seeing that footage even unknowingly. I've tried to tell my children, if you start seeing any imagery like this, get off of it as soon as you can, because this is something that was going to stick with you. And he said, you do have that feeling. A lot of these tragedies, when people die very young or have this, you have that image. I think President Trump is right. You have the image of you think about a lot of the celebrities who die in their 20s and 30s, and they're kind of stuck in your head in that moment. And it's just horrible.